and welcome back. This is part 2, probably, or maybe we just post from here on out. No, I think we do need the backstory up until this moment. The key thing is you've taken us up to the moment of 2014, where something has already happened. The confluence events, you realize the mismatch of funding and technology and talent. You see the waste that can be turned into something productive. Your friends are engaged in that. You've incorporated a social
NGO
enterprise,
and business. Yeah.
and an NGO and a business separately.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And you have decided to leave PricewaterhouseCoopers.
Yep.
And your mothers have played a key role in negotiating cheaper rent and schooled you on how to be hardcore negotiators.
So glad we've got this covered. So we're in this house.
You're in this house.
Yeah. So we're in this house-
2014.
2014.
This is the pre-pandemic, the before times.
The good old days when you could do wacky things in the world, right?
You still can, but it was
wear a
before
mask.
the pandemic.
Just wear a mask. Right? Nah, I'm joking. So we're in
before
this
that,
house.
before the mask era.
Yeah. Ground floor, wood and metal, textiles, electronics, all these different labs. And we're there and we host different volunteers from HelpX, from all these online platforms, right? Couchsurfing as well, to come to help us build this place, to help to contribute to our project.
And if somebody is just joining us, this is one of the 4 co-founders
Yes.
of BGBG,
Yes.
Seeds, plural, in Malay. And
You have an amazing memory, Adam. Well done.
And
Like,
your name one more time.
Rashwin Palsing from Malaysia. So we're there. Actually, we meet our other co-founders over here. We meet Juliana, we meet William, Ambika, Navin, and Ashwin, who's actually my younger brother. All our other co-founders, Jay, another amazing guy who also we meet at this point. So we're in this house era, right?
Yeah.
And we start getting bigger orders to make upcycled furniture for our bags. And I think at some point we're like whacking production till 2 a.m. in the morning. And our neighbors were first our really good friends because we were helping to do environmental projects in the neighborhood. The kids could pop in, we were recycling in the area. From loving us and then us pushing it by being really noisy, we then get the council coming to clamp us down, right?
The city council is not happy with you basically running a business out of a residence.
Literally.
You're violating the zoning code.
And causing problems for them. And they
What kind of problems? Is there noise? Is there
No,
smells?
massive. Yeah, so noise. So noise, like laser, like metal cutters, right? So the like just
Did neighbors complain?
yes. They would call the house and so again, I'll be honest. Like I think we abused our privilege in that neighborhood by pushing it, and also it was one of those things where you had orders to meet, right? And the city council neighbors were cool with us until we pushed it. But then the city council, when they come hard, right?
Okay.
And they were like 14 days notice, you got to get out of here. And where are we going to find a new place in 14 days? This is a crisis. So we have like a panic meeting, and in 14 days, if we didn't tear down this extra stuff, this extra like awnings and roofings and take everything out, there's going to be a fine of $10,000 upfront and then a per day fine.
Wow.
Anyways, being Malaysia, also a very like understanding, beautiful place. We go talk to the council. So we make an appeal letter and we're like, hey guys, look, we understand we've been shut down. We respect this, but we need 3 months, right? And the guy was like, look, I understand what you're doing. You're not the only person. This is a city council officer, right? He said, you, this house in Jalan Ipoh, BGBG, you guys. It's not that what you're doing is a problem. Tons of people work from home in KL. You just made too much noise and there's complaints and now I have to do my job.
Yeah. If you stayed under the radar.
If you did it quietly and many people work from home, you're starting up, I understand. But now you have to evict, right? And we were like, mate, we need 4 months. He's like, I'll give you 3.
Okay.
Right? And that was really kind of them. But he's like, no more noise, tone it all down. But we were like, we need space, time to move. So then in 3 months, we find a factory in an area an hour out of KL where it's affordable for us. We take that factory and we continue doing work over there. Now it's during this phase as well where, side story, but this factory was meant to do bigger orders, bigger production. It kind of fails at some point because we didn't have the right processes for manufacturing, for big orders. Sales didn't lead to production didn't have the right quality. It grew us quite well. William led this factory with G and we did amazing, but also we were doing too many things at the same time. At the same time, then we get an offer from a shopping mall in Kuala Lumpur to set up a makerspace, right?
They wanted one.
So it was quite interesting short story where they had this art row where you could get a place for 6 months for $100 a month. So it was meant to be an incubator for new creatives. So we send a plan to them,
The
and they're
shopping
like,
mall thought that they would get basically new renters out of this.
correct. And also just keeps the mall fresh. So you got new creative shops every 6 months changing. They had like about 10 of these lots, right?
All right.
So it's quite a nice community model.
Yeah.
So we apply for this. It's a 1-year waiting list. We present our plans to them and they're like, you have massive plans. You want a whole education setup, like workshop, right? Also, this shift to education is quite cool because when we were doing production work, Adam, in Malaysia, like the challenge is that people do not value hard labor. So we like labor, like technical, if you're a welder, plumber,
That's
like,
undervalued
super undervalued.
because it's physical labor.
It's just seen as like low skill jobs. So we were getting paid value add something like $25 a day for labor, right? For that type of labor,
Okay.
a day
Which
of
was
work.
low for that market.
Low for that market
At that time.
Right, at that time.
This is.
I mean, okay, to be fair, even less. Sorry, $20 a day. Right, so they were valuing at $20 a day for labor.
So clarification question, and sorry to give away something that's about to happen later, which is the pandemic and the pivot to having to push education as your source of money. You already were beginning to do more education even before the pandemic.
Correct.
As a way to make more money.
Yes. And this is exactly, you hit the nail on the point.
Yeah.
So labor work, $20 a day.
Right.
Education workshop work, $20 an hour.
From how many people? Is that like an individual would pay you $20 per hour?
I mean,
Or
this is the time you'd value. So it'd be 3 of us, it'd be $60 an hour. So when you package a workshop, you'd package the trainers and then the material costs, right? And we could value our time at $20 an hour as compared to $20 a day. And that was when we realized that, wow, this perception of value when it's education, and this is a Malaysia problem, right? When it's education, it was like, oh, great, you're sharing knowledge, it's very valuable. When you're doing manual labor work, they're like,
so interesting. And so one more pause here. From the end user, I'm somebody who doesn't yet know what you know, but let's say I've heard about your bags and I want to learn how to make your bags. Is that the kind of person that would walk up?
So we had workshops on like how to make your own products. We had workshops on upcycle, using plastic bottles into
So
vases.
people would hear about these ideas and they'd look around for, okay, I need a course on how to do it, and I'm not happy learning from YouTube.
So it's the hands-on experience, right?
They
So
want
the
the hands-on
materials, they
experience,
want the
okay.
materials, they want to learn, and people are looking for a fun time.
And you weren't worried about this is the funny thing. If I was in your situation, then I would have been like, wait a second, wait. I've been making money from making these things. Now I'm going to teach somebody and give away my know-how, and they're going to become a competitor of making these cool bags.
So we thought of this, but in the end, right, anybody, like you said, can learn this regardless.
Okay, they're going to learn anyhow.
They're going to learn anyhow,
And,
right?
and just because it was on the previous video and not yet on this video clip, this is a bag made from discarded, perfectly fine for this purpose, but they didn't meet some kind of a criteria of quality control to be a seat belt. And so you're making these things, and people. So you figured people are going to learn how to make these things anyways. We might as well make money by teaching them hands-on. I love this one. It looks so elegant.
Yeah.
You could put a LVMH, and look, the value
Done.
would be $100,000.
We should have done that. Damn it. Piracy. No, I'm joking. We don't do piracy.
We don't do piracy.
We don't.
No.
Definitely not. But yeah, so education, and then we set up this space. We hustle. We totally scrape through saving whatever money we have to set up this makerspace.
Okay.
We end up building everything from scratch. I mean, again, we are makers, right? So we're going to build this place on our own.
Wow.
We were meant to get some loan financing from the government. That fell through.
What are the essential pieces of equipment though? Cutting and sewing.
So, but we did beyond this. So we did bags, we did metal installations, like base metal art installations. We did electronic IoT sensors and lights. We did solar lights that you could deploy to villages, and you could do solar workshops to make your own lamp. So we had like electronic workshops, wood and metal workshops, textile workshops. That was our 3 main workshops.
Blows me away that there's actually an economy around of training people how to do those things. All right, okay, all right.
So we then set up this, and this space is 12,000 square feet.
Yeah.
So then we also buy a laser cutter, right? A design workshop with 3D printers. Slowly we invest in this
This is
equipment.
between, to repeat, 2014, you commit full time and you get evicted from the house.
No, so we're in the house for 3 years. So
3 years.
2017 we get kicked out of
You
the
get
house.
evicted.
2016, Then we go to this factory for 2 years, and at the
Factory
tail
for
end
2
of this
years.
factory, 2018 we get this
Into the
makerspace
mall.
into the mall.
Okay.
So 2018 we set up base in this mall, and we do an equity crowdfunding round. So we raise some impact money. We raise some money from 121 equity investors,
100 and
21 individual investors.
And-
We raised $400,000.
out of 121 people.
Yep.
By the way, are there platforms for sort of crowd equity funding
Yes.
like that?
So-
what is it called in Malaysia?
Pitch in.
Pitch in.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you pitch in, and they're quite big. So we were like probably the 20th to raise money on this platform, or 25th. Early.
How do people? Did they ever exit these people?
Some have, but mostly are still early.
Okay.
Like, so we just did ours 4 years ago, so we're still
Okay,
in
so
the
people
process.
believe that at some future point there will be an exit opportunity. Okay.
I mean, basically, you get this money upfront
Yeah.
for your second round, right? And the second round is when there's an exit opportunity, typically.
Okay.
Or
Alright,
the
so
third round.
there's friends and family and savings.
Totally,
Then-
lots of friends and family.
then-
Thank
then-
you.
Thank you,
Friends and family. Yeah.
Then you do the crowd equity raising.
Yep.
Then there will be another raise, and at that point, some people can sell some of their
Yes.
shares.
Exactly. You got it on point. Yeah. And that second round is due later this year.
Do you guys use the terminology of Series A, Series B? Or
Yes.
You do. Okay,
so that's like a pre-seed.
so pre-seed is friends and family.
Yes.
Crowd equity, what do you call that round?
Still pre-seed. to
It's
be
still
honest.
pre-seed.
Yeah.
And the next round will be
Seed.
Seed.
Yeah.
And at that point, you're still looking for angel investors.
So we would talk to VCs and
You'll talk to
angel
VCs.
investors, but so far VCs have been asking just totally like, I mean, they want like 10x growth, multiple fast growth, right?
Of course.
And we do want that, but we want to balance like
Yeah.
the impact of the work that we do, and we want to grow at our own terms. So we want to grow fast, but VCs only care about how quickly you scale and how stickiness of your product and
And then people don't like the pressure that they might put to make
Yes.
decisions that you don't like.
exactly. And because we are a profitable business,
Right.
we technically don't need to dance with the VCs in the
Yeah.
so we actually can dictate good terms, right?
Yeah.
We're not burning cash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're not desperate, so
We're not desperate.
we can
We're
walk away.
sending, we're
If
doing
we
fine.
take your money, it'll be on our terms.
Yes, and it's for us to do more, right?
Yeah.
Because we're not in a desperate situation where we're going to go bust.
So this is 2018. You're in the mall. How many years are left before the pandemic starts? About 2.
2 years, exactly
Okay.
2 years.
So walk us through 2018 through 2020. You're doing your educational work. You're building up your Fab Lab. Pandemic hit Indonesia. Malaysia. At what time? Kuala Lumpur.
yeah,
Early
literally
2020.
March 2020.
Oh, same time as it
Same
hit the
time.
United States. Interesting.
17
Even
I
though you're
remember-
much closer to China.
Yeah. So we probably took a few days later to lockdown. Our first lockdown was 18th March. 18 March was total lockdown.
There
So
must have been cases before that. coming
There
in,
probably were.
and they just weren't diagnosed.
Not yet, right? I mean, everyone was not sure what to do, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So imagine this: we've got a space, thriving, doing well, right? A lot of design thinking boot camps happen in the space.
Yeah.
Civic engagement with the U.S. Embassy. We work with different corporate partners.
Yeah.
So we work with corporate partners for content, businesses. We work with some
Why would the corporate? What's their interest?
basically design thinking in our space because we've got an amazing like prototyping setup.
What do they get out of it?
So they would go through a 5-day program or 4-day program, and they would leave at the end of it innovating or hacking a new product or service. So they
Wow.
want to get exposure to like the different technologies that we use. We teach them about VR, about IoT.
So
Yeah.
okay, so even established corporations that might be producing the same thing the same way for 20 years might want to send their
A
employees.
certain team, right? The innovation
team,
team,
right.
some of the operations team, they want to think
Kick
differently.
them out of their routine and give them
Yeah.
a fresh
And because we probably have one of the more
lens, fresh skills.
and cooler spaces, like super cool creative space.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it also builds morale, I guess.
Yes. And they get inspired. They get bloody inspired.
And it's interesting that even for an old school established company used to a routine, they value that fresh inspiration. That the
I mean,
spiritual aspect, the
help-
mindset aspect matters.
It did help a lot that design thinking was quite popular at that time.
Right. Is
Like,
it still the same?
It still is. Maybe I mean, not so buzzy as it used to be,
Mm-hmm.
but it was totally the thing to be doing, right? We did STEM workshops. We did a lot of different content over there, but we were only space centric. And when COVID hit, it's heartbreaking, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because we built everything around the space,
and suddenly,
and that's taken off
and
you,
still,
right?
and you're still
Yeah.
expected to pay rent.
Our mall guys were not very kind in this situation.
And how many?
We only
employees?
so we at that point had about 30 full-time people.
Oh my!
Yeah.
Did you commit to any kind of help to them, or you just say sorry?
No.
We won't survive.
No. So in our ethos, we were like, guys, look, this. So we had some projects that were ongoing for the year, and thank God our partners, US Embassy was a really cool partner at this point. We could run all that content virtually. They journeyed with us to run online content. We told the whole team, look, this is the money that we have for the year. It probably won't be enough. We're going to find more opportunities together, but what we can afford is a pay cut across the board. So so we're not going to let anybody go. We're all going to take a pay cut together, and we took the highest pay cut as leadership up to 30-40%. Some team members took 20%, right? And those who really couldn't took 5%.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're in the early stages of the pandemic. How fast did you realize we're going to be doing online courses?
Oh man. So we first respond to making PPE. right? So and we get some orders for that. We do a crowdfunding round for public.
And government and hospitals would pay you for
Yes.
those.
So we were supplying this. We
Masks.
masks, and then later even the gowns, right? The white gowns, the hospital gowns.
No need for
Sterilization.
or sterilization, and the other thing was, well, is there a need for sterilization?
Yes. So there was a partner who did this. So then someone brought in a UV system to help us sterilize this gowns.
Yep.
But in terms of specs, at that point the government was desperate, and they were like, "It's okay." Right? They gave us the specs, and we gave samples, and it worked. And they're like, "Okay, we'll order from you." Right?
And another thing at the time, there was a while that it was, and there was a big buzz from India that they produced a ventilator.
Yes.
For instead of tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands, they produced it for like several $100s.
So another local friend does this called Saura Industries. Ganesh, he builds this amazing, it's a simple pump that serves as a ventilator. Yeah.
And so were you guys doing that? Was there no resource design?
We just basically went into PPE and gowns, but it was that time also that we also went into then online content.
Okay.
And online content then was literally when we realized that, oh my God,
This is what month? Do you remember?
this is probably June, right? June 2020. So
March to
soon,
June, yeah.
So 3 months, and because we have 30 people, so not everyone needs to be PPE.
Yeah.
Some teammates, for health reasons, couldn't go in to the space, and some who lived with family were more careful and more cautious. Definitely, totally needed. So we're like, hey, you guys start figuring out the next part, which is, and we were also sensing that COVID wasn't going to end anytime soon, because we had like another lockdown in August, right? And it just kept going. And who would have known, right? 2021 still safe. Anyways, we then start. But the biggest thing is, how do you earn money whilst you're being at home?
Between the PPE making for government contracts and then the video education, you were able to break even, or were you losing money?
We were always breaking even and just a little bit lesser, and that pay cuts really helped, right?
Okay.
The government had a really good, so we had some loans to pay from our previous BGBG. Like the government had this method where you could delay the loans for 6 months. So we delayed whatever we could delay. We delay. In fact, we couldn't even pay our rent, and we told them all, guys, we're not leaving the place, but we're not going to pay for 6 months, right? And we'll pay you back when we can.
Okay.
They didn't say yes or no. They were just like, okay. I mean, they didn't say. They were just like, We're like, we're going to pay you, just not now. Yeah.
And have you paid them back?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's none of we probably just met our last thing like 2-3 months ago, right? We've honored our word, but we just couldn't afford it at that point.
So you're surviving the pandemic through this process of online education. I think I know what happens next. Is there a phase? Is there anything you want to tell us between that phase and the aha moment of, you know what? We need to provide a booking service, an Airbnb for training. When did that happen?
Okay, so this happens during this. So just to wind back a little bit, the makerspace is amazing, right, Adam? Like, I mean, for me, it gives a lot of joy, and because we had this struggle of getting access to machinery, right, in part one, and now we can give access to machinery and content, and like, but however, like, it was still hard to sustain. We would sustain based on like some corporate programs, but still, it was cutting it by the teeth. And this is the issue with a lot of other makerspaces and like even like Fab Labs, right? That we have an amazing setup, but we also don't fully utilize the potential that we have. We don't look at the products. We look at it from a tinkering, making, creative standpoint. But then in terms of having that commercial hat of where can this go, how can this be monetized to really sustain the space, doesn't always happen. And I think it's a challenge because a lot of us go into this as a creative, as a passionate entrepreneur. I mean, passionate person with maybe not fantastic entrepreneurial skill sets, but more heart driven than, business savviness driven, right? And that was also tough for us to learn. And that's the thing, I think the whole ecosystem is also like figuring out how to hack, right? How to make makerspaces, Fab Labs, creative spaces self-sustainable and in fact thriving. Because we sit on amazing culture, tools, assets, content, but it doesn't do justice. And this is when then online content worked out tremendously well for us. Also crazy, imagine this, right? So we would have 99% of our audience will be a KL audience. The minute we go on Kuala Lumpur, the minute we go online, only 30% of our audience is KL, Kuala Lumpur. 70% is from across Malaysia, other states, different parts, people who never could engage with Mereka.
And if people don't know about Malaysia, let's provide some context. How many thousand islands are in Malaysia? Or
Okay,
is
no.
it only a few big ones?
There's a few. So Indonesia has thousands of islands.
That's Indonesia.
We
has
have
thousands.
we have about 30. I mean, I don't know that we have in the teens.
It's
But we have
influence.
two big islands essentially in Malaysia.
Yeah.
The peninsula that connects to Thailand and the Borneo side. So we've got two
Right,
islands. Yeah.
right. And Borneo is where the heartbreaking deforestation was going
Yes. Totally.
on. Still going on? Probably.
Better.
Okay.
I mean, less deforestation. So better, but still, it's still an issue.
There's still something left?
Still a lot left. So we're still at 50% of forest cover in the country, and we're fighting. Like the government has put a policy to protect that, and we're like really making sure it stays that way.
Now, Borneo, am I crazy here to think that that might be the island that the Sultan of not Sultan of Bhutan,
Brunei. Yeah, he's from there. He's on that island.
There's that little piece in the north. Now, why do I get them confused between Sumatra?
So Borneo has Malaysia,
Yeah.
2 states. There's Brunei and there's Indonesia, Kalimantan, right?
Okay.
And Sumatra is just further down south.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Good. All right. So sorry for that little
No, geography class.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but no, this is awesome because even if you think you know the region, you make mistakes like this. So you're not the country of 1,000 islands
No.
or thousands of islands. You're the one with in the teens, and they're bigger, and there's population on all of them.
So we've got 30 million people in Malaysia,
30
32
million.
to be exact, and KL's about 3 in the center, 7 in the larger like suburbs,
And
right?
suddenly you're reaching an audience that is 70% outside of Kuala Lumpur.
Yep.
Okay.
And they've all heard of Mereka somewhere, someplace, right?
When did you come up with the name America?
So Mereka was set up in 2017, the year before we moved into the mall.
Okay, you had BGBG before that.
Yes. And so BGBG was very environmentally driven with the products and art installations from waste and some creative workshops.
The
Upcycling.
upcycling stuff. And Mareka was formed in one more time. 2018,
2017, just the year before we moved into the mall,
For what purpose?
to have an education-specific
That was the
organization.
education specific. Okay.
So we wanted to separate the brands, and Mereka means they, them,
Them
and the act of creating.
and the active
So
trade.
it's a double like play word, right?
And it's memorable. It looks nice on a t-shirt.
Looks good,
Okay,
right?
yeah.
We even say at the back, I think it says what the word. Oh no! So this is our new T-shirt,
Yeah.
and now our policy is you can stand on the shoulders of giants because with our space, with our content, you get to work with us and you get to grow, you get to fulfill your potential.
Got it.
Cool.
So, and it was within the. I guess that's how you reported the cash flow from the education during the pandemic. It was Mereka money.
Yes.
And people could invest in Mereka.
Yes.
That's what was the equity crowdfunding was
Exactly.
to support Mereka. So still help me. When was the moment? Okay, so it's during the pandemic. You realized, wow, we have this huge audience from outside of Kuala Lumpur. What next? Talk me through that up until the point that you're suddenly booking other people's locations with other people's trainings.
Exactly. So this is when then it's one of those situations where we're like, hey, we've got this content, it's working out well. We also now want to get bookings for it, right? So we need a tech platform. So we need a tech platform for Mereka, for people to see our expertise, who are the experts in Mereka. They can book. So we also see the importance of not just booking our content, but also booking our time, because we pair the experts as coaches, as mentors in the program. And after you graduate, you also want to book their time and say, hey, I want 1 hour of your time, Adam, to talk about storytelling or entrepreneurship, right? So how to connect this? So we need to build a platform for ourselves. And that's when we're like, hey, if we're going to put all this effort into building a tool to serve one organization with utility of only X amount, just serving our team, why don't we go that extra mile and build it with a few deeper layers, which has a SaaS element as well as a platform element, and then we can serve all of our other like comrades in the industry, right? Our other makerspaces, other creative hubs, other innovation centers. How can we support them?
And at what point did you think 3% will go when people pay through Stripe? By the way, Stripe is basically people can enter their credit card or bank information on your platform. The payment processing 3% gets taken by Stripe. You get 3%. That leaves 94% of what somebody is paying that goes to the person providing the training.
Exactly.
Which is still, that's pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty good because you now get and we help them find new customers, right?
Otherwise, you're not making zero. And now-
Exactly. Yeah. And
or you are making zero.
you are making zero, right? So here's the thing, right? And we operate now. So the space operates independently. It breaks even. Our academy, Mereka Academy, also operates and it's thriving, right? We're doing well. We are now expanded to Indonesia as well. We've got a team out of Indonesia. We're looking at content from a global audience, ASEAN-centric mostly, but it's all in English. We're also
When you say
making
ASEAN-centric, for people not from the region, sorry to interrupt, but ASEAN-centric would be which countries off the top of your head?
Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines, Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, Brunei, Myanmar. Laos.
It does not include China. It does not include Myanmar.
Myanmar is part of ASEAN. Yeah.
It is part of ASEAN, but is there stuff going on of
It's a
this?
tough one. It's a tough one because of the junta rule, and it's a complicated one.
Okay, so you don't have exactly an abundance of makerspaces and courses there.
Not that we know of.
Okay,
Yeah.
and once you hit India, that's no longer ASEAN.
No,
Bangladesh, not ASEAN.
We have a Burmese colleague actually, and he operates with his friends over there. He works with us in Malaysia, mini maker spaces, and we try to support him. Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, so ASEAN is really everything below Myanmar, below, not touching China, India, and Australia. Yeah, not touching that.
And not getting to Papua New Guinea,
Not.
East Timor.
It's meant to join, but it hasn't been formalized yet.
Right,
But this is all like a lot of geopolitics that happen, right?
Yes.
But in terms of English speaking countries,
Yeah.
it would be Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines, Brunei, that predominantly does English. In Indonesia, you also get English speaking, but local content is most preferred. So content in Bahasa Indonesia is mostly preferred. So we have started recording content in Bahasa Indonesia as well. And, yeah.
This is so
So
interesting.
this is when we work on our academy, and then that's been growing. But the platform Mereka Connect, right? So Mereka Space, Mereka Academy, and it's called Mereka Connect, which is the platform that connects other like content providers, space providers, right? This is our North Star. We really see this is our ability to not just grow ourselves, but support all of our other hubs to grow.
Yes.
And that's why we take so little, bro, because it is tough at 3%, because that's really marginal, minimal. But as we build the platform, as we give it better utility, we will then also have a subscription model. And you to get fancier features, you can then pay a monthly subscription.
What would the fancier features be if I'm an aspiring maker?
Okay, so if you're a space runner, right? So a big thing is role-based access control. So now I'm the head of I'm finance. I can approve payments, make payments to different like experts. I can approve payments. If I'm a space person who runs the design lab, I can upload content for the design lab. I can collaborate with other people. So how do I give roles in terms of uploading content or removing content? Finance roles. What else? Membership roles. So also we want to give hubs to be able to collect money from their members. So now a lot of us hubs also have regular people who come to our place. And how do you get some sort of regular money from them in return for discounts or free services? So a lot of hubs have asked us, hey, we want to implement a membership model for our space. We need a tool for this. And this will be in the subscription model. So you can list and get bookings on the freemium side of things, but if you want to now start allocating roles within the tech tool, you want to now start having an additional monetization element through memberships, then there'll be a subscription package. We're probably 6 months out before that is ready. Now we're just letting it run. We've gotten about 7,000 unique bookings through the platform. About 10,000 users have used it.
10,000 users, 7,000 bookings.
200 hubs have registered with us, of which 30 are active. Active are hubs who use the platform average once a month. And we've helped to channel about $60,000 to the 30 active hubs over the last 12 months. So it's not a lot of money yet, but it's definitely additional money for these hubs. And as we build our marketing, as we build our database of learners, and we build our brand, it's only growing.
Oh, that's an interesting question. So this question eventually comes up with a lot of software as a service or anything that involves matching human beings to something else. You're collecting data on them. What's your policy and approach on that? I mean, just that data alone would be gold. People would pay you for that.
I mean, for me, mate, it's like, no, this is very, very sacred to being a trustworthy brand.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I think is important that we do is we share insights in generic sense that learners from this region are looking for this kind of content. Learners in this age group are looking for this type of content. I think generic insights are useful, but I would never go down the path of selling your profile to further upsell you with something else, because then you go down an advertising model, and I don't think then people are less honest with you. Right? If they know you're going to sell their data, they're not going to be honest with you. And I want people to be honest with us, because we want to know what they want to learn, what they care about, and then we can match.
So now that we're coming out of the pandemic, it really seems like you guys are still on fire. You're here to spread the gospel, spread word, spread awareness, America. It's fantastic to find out that literally I was present when you walked up to Sherry.
Yeah,
She's like, the mother of the movement, right?
She's the president and the CEO of Fab Foundation. Yeah. And she's awesome. She's super friendly. Yeah. She just connected us right away.
I hope I didn't misspeak, but as far as I understand, there is Neil and there is Sherry.
Yes.
Both of MIT. And literally, I was explaining who I am. I'm a professor at Babson who creates stories of creative entrepreneurs in challenging environments. Do you know any great stories that came out of the Fab Lab movement? And like many people, I think she said, "Oh wow, there's so many, I don't know where to begin." And then you guys rock up and say, "We have a platform for booking.
We want to help hubs monetize their content and their expertise." So we rock up. We introduce ourselves.
And literally, Sherry looks at me and says, "Adam, I think you found your story." and that's how we got to this recording that you guys are watching. It. So sometimes the story of how you found the story is interesting, or how the story found you.
The
Sherry,
story of how you found the story, I like that. Yeah.
Or how the story finds you. I mean, there's something about putting yourself in the right position, sometimes being a bit goofy and manic and like running around to people, but that's one of the things I want to share with people is, stop being embarrassed about being a bit eccentric. I mean, it's only by putting yourself out there and risking being a bit out there that you're in that moment where you rock up to Sherry, one of the founders of the movement.
So also taking a risk, right? Taking a leap of faith, and she could just be like, "Hey, chat later," or she listens, and then immediately makes that connection. And you also have been amazing in walking out to people to be like, "Hey, what do you do? Tell me your story," right? And sometimes I've seen you just buzzing left, right, and center. But also, I think you have made more networks in this conference than most people have. Like,
I did find myself making introductions, which is very ironic as somebody who couldn't actually explain all the details of how the Fab Lab movement works.
A couple of weeks ago,
a couple of
days ago.
Even right now, I have questions that I'm embarrassed to admit that I have about how the model works. Like, for example, I was still fascinated by this idea of wait a second, so who funds them? And it's been a bit of a revelation that I'm sorry if this is old news to people who follow the trend, but help me to confirm that I understand it correctly, because you stand right at the front line of figuring out how to make it economically self-sustainable. It was really pushed out there, Fab Labs. It seems like a way to do community innovation, democratize access to technology and innovation, so people have agency and control about creating the future through technology, and yet it was deployed in a way that is like an extension of educational systems, or am I wrong here? It was very much a hope that funding comes from schools, from universities, from cities. I hope I'm not getting this wrong. If I'm, please somebody correct me.
But so far I think from what I know, you're on point. Yeah.
And then now, your story illustrates how, if you have a makerspace, or if you've tried to make a living by making things, you realize there's expertise, there's demand for expertise, demand for the locations to make things, there's supply, and there's pain on both sides. If you have invested in the resources and you have the know-how, you still got to make a living.
Yes.
And you can't always.
And you want to make a good living.
Not everybody can live on donations all the time. And so you have to figure out, so how do I make some money from this so I can keep doing it? Other people are like, damn it, I want some hands-on training. I need a place to make things. And you figured out, by creating an Airbnb platform, I can help both sides get what they need to prosper, taking a small cut of it so that we can thrive.
Yeah.
Am I missing anything? Is that the two-sentence version of why somebody would want to read this chapter?
Exactly.
Or watch this video?
If you want to understand how to grow your space or your content,
There's always the question of what next, and love him or hate him, I think Jeff Bezos made a great point that eventually all companies die. It's just some have held on longer. And some people say that he saw that Amazon would have a peak or maybe even die one day. Hasn't happened yet, but the point is, let's imagine. Where am I going with this? Do you imagine that so many people get educated on how to be a maker, that there is no need to educate? Is that possible, or is that as stupid a question as will universities one day be obsolete? Or is that not a stupid question? Is there a chance?
That is an age-old question about universities, right?
Yeah. Are they a medieval institution
But I think they're always going to be there.
Yeah,
Right? They're always
yeah.
going to be there because it's a great experience. It just has to change.
Thank you, university system, by the way,
Yeah,
for being my
I think it's still
livelihood.
going to be there. But also like the maker part is just one subsection of
Yeah.
the amount of skills that there is. Also, there is this whole, I don't know, scary like world-ending kind of thing with AI coming up, and everyone needs to reskill, and the half-life of skills, right? Where if you learn something now, it used to last 10 years. Now it became 6. Now they're saying it's 3 to 4.
So there'll still be a demand for people
right?
to learn the cutting
so there's
edge.
going to be stuff to learn, and the maker movement, the creative hubs culture is about places where you get access to multidisciplinary tools and expertise.
And that's not going to die.
And
at
that's
least,
not-
at least you don't see it for.
I don't see. I mean, it could evolve. Like the skills and tech will evolve, but if we are slow to change, then we will die. Yeah.
I'm wondering a few questions that maybe in the comments people might already know where to go. You might know where to go. Neil and Sherry might be wanting to slap me and saying, we already have plenty of research on this. Have people done like a market analysis of like how many makers make, I don't know, bags versus how many are more into
Oh
the...
man, haven't yet, but that's a.
I wonder
would-
if either
would-
academically or your platform might be an amazing source of
we
insights.
would have that insight actually,
then we could-
given some size and scale.
And
yeah.
whether it's more publishing academic papers or market research for the people that like produce the filaments and the 3D printers, here's geographically where the growth is happening.
Yeah.
Here's what the demand is for specific specific tools.
Did you get some water? No.
I should, but
Okay.
but I'm very excited about this idea that you don't need to sell your customer data
No, we don't want to.
to sell
Yeah.
insights into where the market is
But
going,
you can give generic insights.
or
right?
you
Yeah.
could just publish it for free.
Yeah, I would do that. I would do
Or
that.
work with an academic institution to say,
Yes.
this is where the market is going. And
What do you
but
think? Like, yeah.
the businesses that make the filament, the 3D printers, the cutters, whatever, might want to know. Real estate people might want to know whether this is a good real estate investment, or whether the market is saturated, or whether it's only beginning to take off in certain countries.
Yeah.
I just can imagine so many people that would want
To learn or to
know where this market is going and what kind of people are doing it. Is it, in the minds of the hyper capitalists of the world? Is it just a hippy dippy, these, people weaving baskets and making paper and there's no money to be made there? Or no. Yes, maybe it is hippy dippy craftspeople, but they have a demand for certain tools.
But bro, I give you the best example. Like Michael, this guy from Germany, HRW Fab Lab. He's got 9 startups based in his place, and one of them is working on an exoskeleton, right? A dynamic exoskeleton that can support up to 10 kilograms of weight, and it mimics your movement. And if you're doing the wrong type of movement,
correct you.
it'll help correct you. Right, and they've just won some competition, and that's probably going to get funded big. So you're also at the intersection of like there is craft, there is the creative products and all that, but you've also got high tech hardware that comes out.
And
of
that's
this.
the part that I scratch my head, because I hear all of these different stories of what people are doing in makerspaces, and the obvious question is, what percentage-wise? Maybe I can't be the only one who thinks this way. What percentage-wise of this universe of people that define themselves as makers are in it for the arts and crafts, in it for the small cottage industry, in it because this is just they love to turn on younger people and educate children to be,
Switched
smarter,
on
better,
and
more talent?
yeah.
And what percentage are working on the next unicorn valuation exoskeleton company, or working on software? I mean, do you know the mix
But
at all?
how about this as a call to action? Because I care about this.
I
as
hope it's
much
not a
as-
stupid question.
No, I think it's a brilliant question because I want to know this. I haven't found the answer.
Do you have a rough guess based on what you've seen come through your door? How many people want to be programmers? How many people come to you and say, I don't care about making anything, I just want to focus on programming? Do those people not go to you?
We've stopped running a coding school. But just humble, like simple context in our own space. About 40% come for the craft making stuff.
They just they
They
don't.
just want to experiment. They want to play. They want to make things, trinkets, small pouches that they can take.
the
home,
little
right?
plastic dinosaur in the 3D printer, and they don't care about making a living.
No. But these are just creative experiences,
Yeah.
right? Fun. You learn something. You hang out together with a friend, with a couple.
And
that's
that alone, for some people, that's as good as
That's a
going to a
great
basketball
way
game.
to spend a weekend.
It's better than
Yeah.
going to a bar.
Yes.
It's just what they do for
Bars
fun.
are also good, but this is also good.
So this is like 40% of the. You think 40% might just be in it for the arts and crafts?
Come for
And the
that.
experience.
Come
Okay,
for that. Yeah.
Good. All right. I finally
and-
have an estimate from
and
somebody.
then you've got about 20% who are in it for the hard tech, right? Like proper, they want to build like IoT lights and sensors, solar solutions. They want to look at rural engineering, like stuff that can help to better beat like
So improve lives in some village, like a motion activated lamp.
yes,
in a public
possibly
space.
like that. micro hydro, this kind of solutions, right?
Very cool.
Solar heaters.
So seriously, like building a little turbine to make power in a village from a little stream.
So like one of our partners, one of our partners in Borneo, in Sabah, they call Create Borneo. Bani Lasimbang, he does this. He has a makerspace, a fab lab, and he makes little turbines with a Pelton turbine, and he generates power.
That's 20%. Okay.
Who come to use this kind of space.
Okay.
The 30%, 40% are coming to learn these technical skill sets. Not really sure what they want to do yet, but they know that I like coding. I want to dabble in coding. I want to dabble in VR. I want to dabble in a bit of textiles, in wearables. So they come really to get exposed.
So
but this is just 40.
I know this is just one makerspace in Kuala Lumpur.
Yeah.
But it's finally some picture from somewhere. You got 30 to 40% that are arts and crafts.
Yes.
Is that what you said?
Yep.
Then you got 20% that are trying to solve a solution. Another 30 to 40% looking to learn.
Just educational.
That's already at about 100%.
Yeah.
How many would you say out of 100 walk in and it's either they walk in this way or at some point they've realized and you're able to see it, they want to be the next Elon Musk. They not only do they have an idea, they're able to now execute some initial prototypes, and their vision is, I am totally going to raise some money somehow and scale this to be a massive company that solves a big problem, creates a bunch of product or services for people, makes lives better. And by the way, the funding mechanism will involve investors. I will make money.
Yep. I mean,
is it 1 in 100?
I would like to believe that.
Are you the outlier? Because
we're possibly one of the outliers. We've had two other startups work in our place, and they've raised money after that.
Okay.
Happen. One is an agri-tech startup, right? With sensors to optimize fertilizer usage. They call Plant OS. Another one we're working with now called Material in Works. They have their own lab in university, but we're going to partner with them to support their growth as well. So if I can see like 2-3 startups a year scale
out of 200 people that might walk in your door.
I mean, but that's the thing. So the startups who probably come and use are probably about 10 to 20 would come and use it. Yeah.
10 to 20
individual startups.
Individual startups would come in during a year.
Yeah.
Okay. Out of and then percentage-wise, out
so
of
percentages
people
earlier, those were just individuals coming, right? Yeah.
Because there's also the corporates walk in, wanting to have the innovation education, so they count in the 30 to 40% of their education market. Okay, so it's basically, if we're thinking percentage terms, these are outliers. These are probably under 1 to 2% of people that walk in have stars in their eyes, and dreams of being Elon.
I mean, I would say more have the dream, but how many that actually manage to make it into a startup is the 1 to 2%. Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The dream is bigger. So a lot have this ambition, but then once you start dabbling, you realize either it's very technical, either it's not up your alley, either it's already been done.
And it's an interesting question also, how many of them, so somebody watching this might slap me and say, there's a whole lot of people in between purely hobbyists looking for a fun experience and the Elon Musk delusions of grandeur spectrum.
But also because we haven't positioned as an accelerator for tech startups, right? So we haven't gone down that route.
You haven't positioned yourself.
Yeah, so that's why.
Is there somebody in your market that's positioned
there are some government centers that do this, and because they can connect the funding ecosystem right away, so they are best poised.
Got it.
Yeah.
Now, somewhere in
the background noise is okay.
Oh, the background noise. If somebody really wants to hear us, I hope they can still hear us. The microphones on this are pretty good, by the way.
But I'm just going to wrap up in a minute.
Yeah.
With G. Yeah.
Okay, so I got an idea to wrap up. This is the last thing I was going to ask you that was on my mind. On the spectrum of pure hobbyist to delusions of grandeur, are there a lot of people in the middle that manage to make a subsistence living or supplement their income from their use of makerspaces? Is that like a 5% that make something that they sell and are able to help support their life through economic activity that happened in makerspace? Is that like a 5% roughly, I'm guessing? Maybe it's as high as 10% in some places?
I would say for now, it's about 5% at our place, and only because the only one using this is our cloud kitchen. So our cloud kitchen has...
Cloud kitchen?
Yeah, so we have a cafe that
like a cloud in the sky.
Well, I like to think that, but it's not a cloud. It's a kitchen. It's a cafe that entrepreneurs can go in. But when you think cloud,
I wasn't sure if I was going to hear a T at the end or a D. It's not a cloud kitchen.
No, like cloud is in sky.
Cloud,
But this concept of like, it's a weird word for the concept, to be honest. Like,
no, it makes total sense. So many things are in the cloud. And maybe the very last thing that I always ask, well, there's a bunch of questions I normally ask people, I guess we'll pause or maybe never ask.
Yeah.
But number one thing you learned was that number one trauma, number one challenge, number one thing you learned.
Oh man, number one trauma was trying to do too many things, and
Not the eviction.
it wasn't traumatic though. It wasn't traumatic. Like
Okay.
it was stressful, but it was
Trying to
fine.
do too many things was your trauma.
Yeah.
Biggest challenge was also was it
biggest
the pandemic or the
biggest challenge was probably, well, pandemic to an extent, and then feeling that total cluelessness of what to do next, right?
That was
that was a super stressful one.
and then the number one lesson learned.
Is always, also it's conflicting, but always say yes and take opportunities and run with it.
And
Because
yet-
if we hadn't said yes, we wouldn't be here. That's also why we do too many things.
Yeah, at the same time, and then if you really want to quickly run through the big five, like on an African safari of the big five animals that one wants to see, there's the big five legal issues that I tell people are unavoidable in life, even if you're not an entrepreneur. What have you learned about contracting, negotiation? You covered what your mother's example.
Yes. Oh man.
Show that I have alternatives. I can walk away.
Show that you have
It's the same
alternatives.
thing you tell the VCs.
Yes.
I don't need you.
We don't need you. Let's see what you have to offer beyond
Is that
money.
the number one rule of also the legal aspect of contracting? You learned anything about the legal aspects?
I mean, read the fine line, but also like get lawyer friends, right? Get lawyer friends and take your time. Don't feel pressured to sign anything.
Intellectual property. Any lessons learned?
We don't do enough of it,
Really? Okay. So there's the open source ethos,
which we are big fans of.
but
But also there's some things that we think it should be Creative Commons, right? That we can at least protect our ownership and then decide to give it for free. Yeah.
so Creative Commons. There you go. So there should be. So you think that in the maker movement, there's maybe not enough emphasis on. Wait a second. Time out. Maybe something should be carved out for a Creative Commons approach.
Yes.
Where I am able to. Hey, bro, if you're going to use my ID, can you?
Exactly.
Help fund it.
Some things should be totally open source because that's just meant to spread, and some things should be Creative Commons.
Do you have any patents, any trademarks? Would you fight
Brands? No, brands. Yeah. So we've trademarked our brands, both of it, totally.
Okay, you've
yeah.
registered.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if I came up with a Mareka,
We'll find you.
you'll find me. Okay. So you see, intellectual property. The right to exclude others is the powerful aspect of it. What have you learned about business formation? You formed now a charitable NGO.
Yep.
In your history, you formed a
Two businesses. Yeah.
social enterprise.
So they're straight up regular businesses as set up, but then
BGBG?
So there's no
Social enterprise form.
yeah.
It is a business.
It's a business.
So what was the first business again?
So first is the NGO, the BGBG NGO,
BGBG NGO.
and then BGBG Designs, which is
the
called the company.
reason for the NGO was
We were early 2012. We were not sure what was going to work, so we were like, let's start. It's just a non-profit. And
Okay.
Yeah.
And then and then you're like, no, wait, we do want to make profits, so that's why you formed BGBG as a for-profit entity. Then the next business,
Mareka.
Medica,
Yeah.
formed also as a business in Malaysia.
Yep.
Okay.
But as both organizations, we are also accredited social enterprises. So in terms of
Who credits?
the government, has a policy and a
And then you
agency.
pay a reduced tax burden.
So now this year it's actually tax exempt.
Nice. You can still make profit, but because do they audit? Do they check?
They
if you're really-
audit if your impact is legit. They audit if you are like
And the social benefit.
you earn
that-
your money from like
The social
business.
benefit that you're able to prove is the fact that you have an educational function. Is that enough?
No, so straight up, it has to be either you're reducing waste, you're solving carbon emissions, right?
Okay.
Or you are helping to earn income or
Okay.
create jobs. So
Okay.
it's a bit more of a narrow view in terms of impact. Yeah, it's
Okay.
environment, income, from what I remember now.
Okay. And the lesson learned about these organizations, all of them were essential.
It was the right thing at the right time, right? And our NGO has also been very important because it's allowed us to be flexible in funding. So we work with some corporates who want to work with us, but they cannot work with a business. They have to work with a non-profit
Huh.
on a philanthropy or impact project. And
So depending on the project, you can use one of the
yeah,
organizations.
and
to
what we
fulfill
do
the
is we
mission.
always transparently say like, hey, it's an NGO set up for this. We will engage our social enterprise for some aspects, and we tell the corporate right away, and they're like, okay, cool.
Brilliant, brilliant,
Yeah.
brilliant. Okay, so different forms for different functions, and Merica is set up in a way that if you were to take VCs and have an exit round for current investors, you could take investments.
Yes, so we have taken now. We've taken 16. We've sold 16%.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
for the $400,000. Yeah.
Okay. Next question out of the big five. So we've covered contracts, intellectual property, organizational forms. Does your story have any lessons about working with other people? Do you employ independent contractors? Do you employ agents, like people that are extensions of yourself? Full-time employees are typically agents. Is there some other employment form? Is
Oh
there
man,
anything?
I love this question. Thank you. This is
Really?
great. Yeah.
Okay, so tell us what you learned.
So we were
For
hugely
a
like
global audience, anywhere, do
Yeah.
you prefer people that are like extensions of you, but you have bigger obligations to them and they can create bigger liabilities for you? Or do you prefer arm's length independent contractors that, from contract to contract?
Yeah.
Which
So
is better?
we have now a team of 60 full-time people, right?
Okay, 60
and
full-time
60.
people.
And we obviously can do with more and more people because we're growing and there's a lot of things to be done. However, like we also struggle in paying top dollar for some of the we can't afford some expertise. So we've used Upwork, right? Freelance platforms extensively
Okay.
to get so if I need
So strangely, some of your top expertise are independent contractors.
yeah.
Huh.
So like some of our best like
Why
so,
were you so excited by the question?
No,
That's what I should have led with.
no.
Okay.
Because like for example now like we need senior developers, right? Tech guys,
Yeah.
and we can't afford the top dollar tech guys. So we
Okay.
go with what we can afford,
Yeah.
5 years experience. But when they need guidance, we get people on Upwork, like top talent,
Yeah.
for only 8 hours a week. So we're pairing super experienced talent from the global marketplace with our teammates to learn from each other.
Okay.
So we have a very agile workforce where we have full-time teams who are committed full-time.
Got it,
But if I need like an expert 20-year badass person in something,
Is this
I
why you like the question?
I loved it because we've been using this extensively, and I tell my team,
yeah.
never limit yourself to what's around you.
Yeah.
Look online, book someone's time for 2 hours, pay them, and have a chat, brainstorm, throw ideas.
And you
Yeah.
encourage your employees, look, I'm willing to pay for it.
Yeah, so we give them
If
budgets.
you spot the talent, you give them
We
budgets.
give them little budgets and say, like, this budget's for freelancers. Go work with external experts and come and
Wow.
tell me what we don't know.
And don't be intimidated by the fact that you might be finding somebody 10 times more talented and experienced than you.
Yeah.
We want
That-
you to find that
yes,
person.
you're not going to lose your job is yours.
Yeah.
But if you don't find people smarter than you, that's a
That's
problem.
amazing. That's also a way to develop these people.
Yes,
right?
yes.
They're moving
Like-
up the ladder of talent.
They're having chats, they're like sending
Yeah.
them, hey, review my document, check out my strategy, does it make sense, poke holes in this?
And the last question is, you could frame it like this: liability. You could frame it as risk. You could frame it as torts. In other words, this whole family of issues that can come up when somebody hurts somebody else, and then somebody else gets angry and wants money. Now, this could happen in the form of you make a product, it blows up, and a customer gets hurt.
Yep.
It could happen when you talk trash about somebody.
Yep.
And their reputation is tarnished and they lose clients. In this whole family of issues that come up when you have conflict resolution, liability, by extension, if you're smart, you try to eliminate or control the risk of harm to others. Are there any lessons learned? Has anybody ever been harmed in a makerspace? I'm thinking, oh my God, you got cutters.
Yeah,
People can get hurt. What do people ever get angry at you as providing the space they injured themselves and there weren't enough warnings? Or have I opened up the door? Have I explained
no.
the issue?
I get it,
Harm,
I get it.
liability, being
Yeah.
proactive, and then conflict resolution when somebody does get hurt or claims to be hurt. What have you learned about that broad family of issues? Go.
Whew, this is a huge one.
It's a huge one. Let's start with let's make it simple. Can you remember times when people got upset, either internally in your organization or external to your organization? Somebody got harmed.
I mean, so far, touch wood, we've not had any like massively, right, all over.
Yeah, we're knocking on unfinished
I mean,
wood.
we've got legal paperwork to cover that.
You
like,
do? Do you have insurance?
Yes, public liability insurance. So first, protect yourself structurally. Always.
Do people
right?
sign disclaimers?
Also, yes. When
Disclaimers and insurance are
yes, but then again, negligence is still your responsibility, right?
gross negligence.
Yeah.
Like something that they could not. They probably agreed to.
For a waiver,
Yeah.
if they had been an idiot to cut themselves. But,
But
if
if-
you didn't put safety in place,
You're right.
then
Common sense, what somebody
is-
ought to do.
yeah.
Industry standard. Are there industry standards for makerspaces?
totally quite.
Is there no safety certification?
Not that I know of. Wow. Yeah.
There's another. I wonder if ISO is
Yeah.
ever going to watch this.
Yeah.
But there could be. Do you think there's a market or a need for it for
I
safety
think
inspections
so. I
and
think so. Like,
certification?
because it's a big concern. It's a huge
It
concern.
is, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, we even moved away from doing kids STEM programs
Yeah.
because we were not confident that we were able to provide that level of
safety.
safety.
Wow.
So we work with adults mostly because of this. So
Fascinating.
one is also being mindful of your risk appetite, right? With adults, we tell them what not to do, and we're like, if you're being silly, you're going to get in trouble, right?
Have you told people to leave for being like
so
conspicuously
far we've
irrational?
told people off, but I mean we haven't had. No one's been that like
Okay.
arrogant or
Nobody's
rude
been
about
escorted off the site.
No. So know your risk appetite. Protect yourself with all the insurance and the paperwork. But then also always I think. I mean I'm personally the I would look at legal as the last avenue, right? If there's an issue with a client, payment problems, I'm always like, hey, let's
settle.
talk it out. Let's talk it out. Yeah, I can choose to go to court and I could probably but it's just never worth it. So I'm always the middle ground kind of guy. Like, yeah.
Related to that issue, maybe we nailed it enough.
Yeah.
Maybe we didn't nail it. So we covered the big five. And we covered last piece of advice for anybody and anywhere out, even outside of the maker community, just anybody looking for life wisdom. It is say yes to everything. To repeat,
Opportunity. Say yes to opportunity.
Say yes to opportunity.
Right? Even if you don't know, explore that. Like,
Be ready to be overwhelmed, but you think that the cost of being overwhelmed is still worth it to say yes to everything.
Yes, to that extent, but also only say yes to things if you have that solid team and friends next to you.
And you have that.
Yes, so we are always super transparent about what's happening, what opportunity is coming. If we're going to say yes to this, are we all ready to go all in?
Yeah.
And we have this like all hands on deck. We trash it out with each other, and we're like, okay, you know what?
Trash it out or thrash it out?
Trash it out. Right? And we're like, okay, we're going to say yes to this.
Yeah.
And that means, and we have this thing where once we say yes, we're all in, we go, right?
Okay.
So disagree as much as you want before, but once
But
we
then
agree to
commit.
something, we commit. Yeah.
Do we want to do a wrap-up video with your
Yeah,
partner over
come,
there?
G. Yeah, can we
Should
pause
should
this?
Pause? Yeah. Oh my God,
it's
that was
been- it's been-
55 minutes.
It's been long.
and
It's been
30.
long.
My God.
Yeah. How are you gonna edit that?